Every single person in this world has a story to share. Your story is your superpower, and it's unique to you. In sharing it with the world, you can impact millions of people. If you keep it to yourself, you are doing the world a disservice. This is Della. I'm the host of Della's Voice, and I help you share your superpower with the world.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Della's Voice Sunday live talk show. Happy Easter. If you celebrate Easter, happy Sunday. I'm so blessed that you are here once again to join this episode and be a part of this inspirational, motivational, informational hour with another fantastic guest. Divinely equipped. That is the topic of today's show. Trusting that you have everything you need to get through whatever it is you need to get through. That is a big part of my learnings. Trusting, believing that if I just let go and surrendered, I'd be okay. And there's a lot of learning alongside that, a lot of shifting, a lot of mindset change, a lot of growth. Our guest today is going to give us his experience, his story, and how he discovered how he was divinely equipped. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is Gordon D Melville. A little bit about Gordon Melville. Gordon is a multi-award-winning international best-selling author, founder, and principal coach at Jewel International. He is an elite speaker. He runs seminars, and he is the co-owner of momondays Waterloo. He sits on several boards. He's very active in his church, and he volunteers in his community. He is the husband of his wife for 29 years, and he's a father to 3 boys. So you can tell he's a busy man, and I'm so glad that he made time for us today. After being introduced to the world of sales through automotive industry, Gordon went on to work with several of the biggest names in the personal development world, including Zig Ziglar and Grant Cardone in his early 20s. So he started really young. Most recently, Gordon battled and continues to win the war of depression from severe burnouts. And I think that is due to lack of self-care. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. When we're busy, first thing that goes out the window is self-care. So he has completely reprioritized his life. He is undertaking personal development for over 25 years. And Gordon now has read well over 1,500 books and has spent a small fortune on international personal growth from high-level mentors. He is certified in multiple disciplines, including strategic intervention through Tony Robbins. For more information about his programs with Jewel International, Boxed Inside Out, and workshops in your area to bring Think and Grow Rich technologies into your business, or just to make direct contact with Gordon, You can find him on his social media, but I will also leave his email address at the bottom of this post so you can get in touch with him. Well, it is with absolute pleasure that I bring you a really cool guy, Gordon D Melville, on Dela's's Voice. Hello, hello.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you.
Welcome, Gordon. Welcome. Thank you for making time to be here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Happy Easter for your listeners that do that. I know you don't always, but happy Easter.
And happy Easter to you. So, Gordon, I found you on Facebook, and I thought this guy, who is the co-owner of momondays Waterloo, he would have a ton of story to tell. And so for those watching or listening who don't know about momondays, why don't we tell them a little bit about momondays also so they know what that is. But first, I want to say that when I heard you pick this topic, divinely equipped, I asked you, I said, what is it that you can talk about for an hour without being prepared? And what title would you pick? You picked divinely equipped. And right away, I thought, this is going to be a really good talk. So I'm super happy that you're here. And so let's just start with you, Gordon. Where did you start? What kind of a childhood did you have growing up in Ontario, I assume?
Yeah, I was born in Toronto at a very young age. It was very traumatic. I didn't speak for like a year and a half. And then we moved around a lot. So my dad, for his work, he got moved and transferred a bunch. So we moved a whole bunch. I was in 6 different public schools and 3 different high schools. We moved a lot. And then I have 3 younger sisters, and lucky to still have my parents. Yeah, it was we were religious, and I've grown as I've gotten older. I'm just about 53. As I've gotten older, religion isn't something that I appreciate anymore. Even the word religion means, by definition, means to bind up. And so lots of rules and regulations and things that people just can't live up to, and it puts lots of pressure. And I think that's where some of the people that struggle sometimes with depression and stress and anxiety are trying to live up to a certain expectation. And so we had really high expectations growing up, and it kind of set some paradigms inside of me that I still battle some to this day, trying to get rid of and to overcome. I'm a deeply spiritual human. That's a completely different deal. And but yeah, not religious. We were religious growing up, and but not like that anymore. But so yeah,
I can relate to that. You know, having to be religious. That's how I look at it, because I grew up in a society where religion was forced, and right. So you kind of have this attitude of no, I don't want any of that. I think as soon as I could, I said I denounced that God, and I said no, that's not for me. Right. And as a result, I feel as if I lost touch with myself, because there was that spirituality was missing. And it wasn't until much later in life when I found spirituality, and it's so different than being religious. Absolutely. So I totally relate to that. And so how did you find your spirituality again, Gordon?
I think Papa puts it. I call God Papa because of my relationship with him. But
I love that.
Yeah. So I think he puts you in a position that he allows things to happen in your life that will bring you to a place where you realize, because for most of our life, especially being a guy, I can do it. I can get it done. Right. I don't need anybody to do it. I don't need anybody's help. I can get it done. And so he puts you in a place where you just can't. So what happened with me was, and again, you're right in your opening there, and thank you for that tremendous introduction, by the way. It was fabulous. I really appreciate that. But what happened was self-care was a massive thing that wasn't there. So even doing personal development for almost 30 years, you teach it to other people, you talk about it with other people. But for me, I was bulletproof and I could just make it happen. And so everybody came before me, everybody, clients, strangers, my family, other people's, my friend, everybody came before Gord. And so what happened was eventually my body, and I just didn't listen to it, right? It's okay to run 300 miles an hour with your hair on fire. That's fine. You can do that. A lot of people I look up to, they're running just tremendous amount, right? Richard Branson runs 400 companies. Tony runs 45 companies. Like they're very, very active, but they're also huge into self-care. So they make the time for their own meditation and their own food and their own vitamins and all the things that they need to do to look after themselves spiritually and physically. And so like they just look after themselves and they do it first. And for a long time, and again, religion teaches, oh, no, it's others first. Well, and no, that's not right, because something Tony had said, he said, I used to travel, and so lots of time on a plane. And he said to me, what happens when you get on a plane? The flight attendant says, in an unlikely event of a depression, blah, 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 but the oxygen mask will come down, put your own on first before you're trying to help anybody. Because if you pass out, you're no good to any of those people. Mm-hmm. And so looking after yourself first means, matter of fact, it's selfish not to look after yourself first, because you're putting everything else at risk, right?
Yeah.
So what happened, I got sick the summer of 2015. My body just sort of said, you know what, if you're going to treat me like this, I'm done. I'm out. Yeah. And I was bedridden for 2 years, literally could not get out of bed. And I know that sounds ridiculous. And in my past life, I would have gone, yeah, that's stupid. You're just lazy. Put your feet on the floor and get out of bed. I need to go back and talk to those people that I mentioned that to at the time and apologize to them profusely, because I have a completely different look at it now. But my body said, no, you're not going to move. And if you do move, it's going to hurt and you're going to pay. And that's what happened. And so I was Energizer bunny for a long, long time, and then decades. And then my body said, no, I'm out. And when you do that to an Energizer bunny and you put them in a space where they can't move, it gets dark in a hurry. So in the middle of all of that, there was a suicide attempt. And I look at that, and again, divinely equipped. So I look at that, and most people would look, because I think nothing has value, positive, negative, good, bad, until we put the value on it, until we look at it and say, this is the value I'm placing on that. So I could look at that suicide attempt and go, oh my, that's horrible. It's dark and nasty. And it was, but that was Papa equipping me to be able to help other people. So when I finally got over myself and figured out how to share that story, which I know you're big on sharing story, and we're big on sharing story at Momondays. It's an interesting phenomenon, though, and I'll share with you. It took me a year to admit when it actually happened. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't admit to myself it had happened, because I was embarrassed and ashamed, and I didn't want to even look at it. And
of course,
so
you're a man who, you got to be able to handle it.
I got to be tough, right? Yeah. I can't show that kind of emotion. So it took a year, and then a friend of mine that has an online magazine asked me to write an article, and for her magazine, and I said, sure. What's the topic? And she said mental health, and I said, okay, I think I could figure that out. So I did a little meditation before I started to write, and it put me kind of in state, and I started to write. And what came out was that story and what happened, and it scared me because I hadn't even admitted to myself it had happened. I let it sit for a week. I came back and played with it a little bit, and then sent it to her and said, is this what you were looking at? And to her tears, she said, yep, that's exactly what I was looking for. That's perfect. Thank you. I let my wife read it before we put it online. So, she saw it before the world saw it. But I was still hiding behind. It was good to get it out, because that was the initial, right, break the seal. But I was still hiding behind a screen. And then that magazine article precipitated my first the next big published piece was in an anthology, and I wrote it again a second time for the anthology, and that was published. So that's twice going through the story, but both of those stories brought Mo Mondays to the table because someone who's now a friend that owned a Mo Mondays in a different city saw that book and said, "Hey, can you come and share that story at Mo Mondays?" And I'm like, okay. So it was interesting to me working through and the dynamics of things and the way things work. So putting vibration and everything is energy. We all know everything is energy. That means everything is moving. It looks hard. It looks, we look at the computer, it's hard. We look at a table, it's hard. But if you look at it under a microscope, it's thousands of atoms, right, moving. So it's all moving. That means it's all energy. So when you put out that vibration, and it needs to go out. So I'm a big goal guy. And for years and years and years, I would write my goals. But if I don't say them out loud, the vibration of my pen isn't going out into the universe. So I have to say it to get that to go out. So I had written it on the magazine. I wrote it in the book. When I got to Mo Mondays, I verbally said it with my mouth in front of my family and friends and work colleagues and a bunch of strangers. But that went out, in that vibration of that energy went out into the universe. And then the weirdest thing happened, because within a week, 3 of my buddies that weren't in the room that night called me and said, "Hey, can we get together and have coffee?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So we got together. Well, I had a gentleman 10 years my senior sit at my kitchen table and blubber for 2 hours about what was going on in his life and in his marriage. And I was thinking at the end of the week, all 3 of them did the same thing to me about different things in their life. And I'm like, what's going on? But it was that energy shift in the universe that had redirected things for me. And so the other thing that happened during the introduction to Mo Mondays, one of the things that happened, and without going into the whole story, I was laying during the attempt, I was laying on the bathroom floor, and I heard, and I had already started the process and things were already on their way. And I heard a voice. I was alone at home. There was nobody here. The kids were at school. Wife was at work. But I remember an audible voice, man's voice, say to me, "What are you doing? Like, this is not this is not the legacy you want to leave for your kids. You have an 8-year-old that's going to come home and this is what you want him to find. Like, come on." And as I looked out from the bathroom floor into the hallway, across the hallway, I could see our family picture on the wall. And the voice said to me, "That's the reason why you don't want to do what you're doing." And I you're right. And I figured it out and cleaned up the mess and went back to bed. And because I was bedridden anyway, no one even noticed that I slept for 2.5 days, pretty much without a break, because of the effects of after effect of what I had done. The weird part for me was I wrote that in the story online, and I wrote that in the book. So I'd already been through, right? I'd already been thinking about it. When I went to prepare for the Mo Mondays talk, I happened to come into our bedroom, and if you walk in there's a hallway, and the bathroom's on the right side, and on the other side of that hallway, there's a his closet. And I say that because I have way too much clothes and my wife has no clothes.
That's nice, by the way. You look very nice.
Thank you. So that's on the other side. But it occurred to me as I was walking into that hallway, there's no room on that wall for a picture. There's never been a picture on that. You couldn't. It still gives me goosebumps. It in the moment, Papa was showing me what I needed to see to get me to do. But if I hadn't done the Mo Mondays thing or prepped for that, because normally I don't prep, if I hadn't prepped for that I wouldn't have realized that miracle had happened. And so, being, again, spiritual, right? It's something that we're so connected to that and understanding how that works. And I think that's what brought me to, I've spoken in 7 or 8 different Mo Monday cities. And before we ever took it over took over Kitchener or Waterloo as co-owners. But it's the most wonderful thing. You talk about inspiring, and we bill it, our momondays Waterloo, as inspirational entertainment. So we want to do both. We want to entertain people. So there's live music, but we also want to inspire. And so we do get stories. We do get heavy stuff, the PTSD and the depression and the suicide and whatever. But
Part
we
of
also,
life, Gordon. It's part of life.
absolutely it is. And then we get the other side, anecdotal things, fun stuff about their family and kids and vacation, their pets and whatever. I think the one thing that's a big thing for me, and I get on a soapbox about the word, everybody says, well, we got to stop the stigma. Can't have stigma about mental health, mental wellness, mental awareness is what it is for me. It's not mental health. It's mental awareness. And the message I try to get out, and the message I'm trying to pump hard into all the different places I've been talking to, is that stigma is a sanitized word that we civilized people use so that we don't have to actually admit what it is we're doing. And what I mean by that is it's judgment, period. Mic drop, done. That's all it is. We're judging that person's messed up. I'm okay. And as long as we keep it it's not inclusive, it's exclusive, meaning they're messed up, but we're okay. And as long as we do that, we keep them on the outside, people are going to choose suicide because they don't want the shame and the embarrassment of asking for help. I used to say, why don't people reach out in the moment? Right? Why don't they reach out? Well, they don't want to reach out. And when I was in that moment, my brain said, I'm doing my family and friends a favor by not being here. Why would I reach out in the middle of that to say, hey, I need help? I'm not going to. And most people are not going to. So dropping the judgment out of, it's not stigma. It's judgment. Stop judging people. As long as, if we understand that everybody is on the mental awareness spectrum, everybody is, 100% of us, whether it's a little bit of stress or anxiety at work or home. It doesn't have to be full-blown depression and suicidal. We all deal with stress and anxiety and little bits of depression and, ebb and flow of days like this where it's sunny and nice and a holiday and everybody's excited. Even during lockdown, it's locked down, but you know what? It's a beautiful day. They find January, February are bad months for suicide because it's dreary and dark and gray, and that just affects your mental state. And so understanding that if my mental awareness about inclusion were all on that scale, then people will reach out. Once it's inclusive and there's no shame and embarrassment with it anymore, then people will ask for help when they need it. Not in the moment, but when they get depressed or what. And so that's the message is we're all on that spectrum. We're all on that spectrum. And to try and get people to understand and embrace the two things I've taken out of my life as much as I can, and I'm human, so it still creeps in and I still battle and fight with it. But judgment of anybody, the presentation doesn't matter. How they present does not matter. I don't care whether they're dressed nicely, they're homeless, doesn't matter what the nationality is. It doesn't matter whether they're tatted or pierced or all the things that we look at as humans and go, ooh, that's a little bit weird, Oh, he's got a shaved head and I'm not listen to him because I'm judging what I'm seeing on the outside. I'm judging the presentation of how they present. But as soon as I take that presentation away, we're human. As soon as you take the presentation away and just love, not sex love, not arousal love, human love. You're a human, I'm a human. So I love you, right? As soon as that happens, all the BS that seems to float around us at the moment and is horrible in our world at the moment goes away. It all just goes away. And then I'm thinking about, if I'm doing self-care and I'm looking out for my friends, I'm looking out for my family, I come across people and I'm not looking at that presentation. It completely changes the way you view it. So taking the judgment out. The other thing is expectation. So disappointment, by definition, is an unmet expectation. So if I just don't have an expectation, then there's no disappointment ever, because if something happens well, then that's great. If I hold somebody to my expectation, in my opinion, means nothing in relation to what your plan is and what your journey is, or what anybody's journey or plan is. So, and so they're on their journey, on their adventure, they're doing their thing. And you know what? If I have no expectation, Now I have expectation for myself, which I've had to temper and relearn through the divine equip. I have had to learn some of those things, some of it the hard way, because I still have an inbred desire to push. I want to push. I want to push. I want to push. I have that. And I think that's part of the reason I still have challenges. I think that's part of the reason Papa still allows things to come into my life. So I've had migraine level pain in my head for more than 19 months that they can't find a reason for it. It's constantly there. Wake up with it, go to sleep with it. It's always, always there. And some days it just leaves me. I can't get it. The pain is so bad, I pass out or throw it bad. But yeah, and like I mentioned to you yesterday, or put out in the one ad, I've got 2 abscessed teeth that I'm a little bit swollen. I apologize. But you know what? It's even more pain, and it's I could go, hey, I could have text you and go, hey, I can't do it because I'm swollen and pain. You know what? You got to find a way. Sometimes you got to find a way. When you got to find a way to push through those things. And so my expectation of myself is no. I still want to be the Energizer Bunny. And I've had to temper that and learn to figure out, it's not even pacing. It's doing self-care. And as long as I do my self-care, and as long as I look after myself and do the things I need to do to make sure that I'm operating 100%, then things work properly. So judgment and expectation, if I remove them. And so when we have our Mondays, there is no, it's the weirdest thing, because people tell us after that have spoken at even things like Toastmaster, for instance, great place to learn how to speak, right? Wonderful learning ground as far as speaking. But somebody in that room is going, you said 15 times, and you're right, your presentation's a little bit not quite right. And they're judging what you're saying.
Yes.
In some way it's being evaluated.
I wouldn't do well right now. I use a lot of hums and
a lot of us do, and it becomes something that you become aware of, almost paranoid about, that you're, did I say too many times, or did I, so but it's a great place to learn how to speak. It really is, to become aware of how to talk. But Mo Monday's audiences are completely different. A Mo Monday's audience is just love. Mo Monday's audiences sit there and they just want to hear what the story is, right? There's no judgment. There's no, it's the weirdest thing, because it's such a warm, it's like a hug from the audience. It's the weirdest thing, but it's such a wonderful, and it's something we crave. People that show up, we used to show up. We did, 26 live versions of our show, of our events. And then we went digital, obviously, in March last year. And we've done more than 40 total now, including the live shows. And our audience, the one that we had then was local, and the one we have now is global. And it's such an amazing blessing, right? But the people that have been local and know us here, really, and they reach out regularly and go, hey, we miss hug. Really, I'm a big hug guy.
Me too.
So not being able to do that just kills me. But, and you know what, even hugging is something that when we get back to it again, and people joke with me, because scientifically provable, a hug that lasts more than 20 seconds has therapeutic properties, meaning, right, it releases endorphins in you. And so when I hug people, I hug, and you almost feel, because we're used to doing this thing where we kind of, even guys, yes, exactly, right? Or we bump shoulders, you shake hands and bump shoulders. It's not. So when you hug them, and you can feel their body kind of relax, like they're going to let go, and I just don't let go. And they're like, I've had people, a hug, like a real hug, right? Hug. And it reminds them of their grandparents or their parents sometimes. Really hugging them, and then they suck right onto you, and then they don't want to let go, because they love how that feels, right? But even that, you watch people hug, and a hug doesn't matter how you do it, it's good. But a hug, usually it happens to the right side. We tend to hug. If you watch people hug, they hug this way. Totally,
yes,
right.
It's supposed to be heart to heart.
Exactly, it should be the other way, right? Yeah. Go into the other side, bring their head to the other side. And anybody that does any energy work And I've had lots of people that are big into their energy that have never had a hug from me when we're standing. I remember this one lady, I hugged the first one, and I've hugged her before. And so we were hugging, and then I let her go, and her friend said, "Oh, I got to get one of those." So I hugged her, and she was into her understood energy stuff. And she's like, oh, while she was still holding on to me, she's like, "Oh, she looked at her friend. You could have warned me," because the energy she could feel, right? She said, "Do you feel that?" I said, "Of course I feel that. That's why we do it this way." But yeah, it's hugging where that interaction of that energy between flows is a completely different hug. And then when you go more than 20 seconds, it's an experience instead of just a hug. And our audience in Waterloo, the ones that want to, some people still don't want to do that, even back then, pre-COVID. But the ones that do really appreciate having that hug. And we all miss being able to hug. And the running joke has been when we can go back to having live again, hugs will be 20 minutes instead of 20 seconds to try and catch up, right?
Gordon.
Absolutely.
I'm going to drive over.
More than welcome. Anytime.
Here you are going through this crisis. That's what I call it anyways. And I want to say to you that I totally relate to that experience. I had something similar happen to me when I felt like my body let me know what was happening inside my soul. And so I got really sick, and the doctors couldn't tell me what was wrong with me. I was bedridden for a few weeks, and I really thought I was going to die. And that was a totally different eye-opening experience for me, where I really realized that I have not been living my best life. So that was the moment of my awakening, basically. But here you are, this guy who's been in this like self-development world for like 25 years of your life. You practically grew up with the stuff. You know all about mindset. And we just don't think things like this happen to people like you, Gordon.
True. Well, and I think that was one of the things that is part of the hardest hitting parts of my story, because if I didn't do that, the two things I attribute still being here to are Papa and my personal development. Because if I hadn't done that, I would lay in bed. People say, how do you get yourself when you're in a deep funk like that? How do you get yourself out? Or how do you lift yourself up in the moment? Right. And when we do Box Inside Out, that we're giving people, guys in particular, but I can do it with anybody, but we give them tools and strategies to be able to deal with stress and anxiety and depression, and practically, right? It's not like saying, well, just look after yourself. Great. What does that mean? When self-care, it's great to talk about what does that mean? Like, practically, what do I have to do? What do I have to say? What are the actions I take? So they say knowledge is power. That's not true. Knowledge doesn't mean anything unless you put legs to it and take action with it, right? If it affects you, then it's powerful, right? That action is powerful. So, everybody knows how to lose weight. Why is obesity an epidemic? Because people there's a knowing doing gap. I know what to do, but I don't do it. So what's the piece in between? So being able to tap into that, knowing what to do, is only part of the equation. Then we actually have to do it. And I think sometimes we don't love ourselves enough, right? So until the doctor says, hey, Gord, you're going to die if you keep eating the way you are, if you keep acting the way you are, if you keep not exercising or not doing right self-care, you're going to die. Well, at that point, okay, wait. I now have the motivation to motivate myself to change the way I eat and the way I function and my lifestyle, right? To save my life. And that's a huge thing in Think and Grow Rich. And Nap Hill is brilliant. I recommend both those books. The first book was Laws of Success. And it's life altering. If you study it, it's life altering. And then Think and Grow Rich was a watered down, or not watered down, but a abridged version that for being wealthy, and not just money, but wealthy in every way, right? Yeah, absolutely. So, but he talks lots about having a definite major purpose. And once we have a definite major purpose in our life, then we have a goal, right? I can get in a plane. Where are we headed? If it's just arbitrarily, willy-nilly, well, I don't know where we're going. Well, that's kind of a useless trip, first of all, and you're wasting a lot of energy and time to not know where you're going. As soon as you know where you're going, then you plot a course and boom, away you go, right? So having a definite major purpose, again, I like I said, I'm a big goal guy, but goals are the mini steps to get to your definite major purpose, which is the half step to get to your vision. So there's 3 layers of that in goal setting. And Napoleon Hill talks lots about that in those books. Tremendous. But hammering down, you'll hear people say, well, you have to have a strong why. In MLM, they'll talk multi-level marketing. They talk, you have to have a really strong why. And if it doesn't make you cry, it's not the right one. And we used to look at it and go, yeah, whatever. But they were right. That if I used the example of Liam Neeson in the movie Taken, if you've seen that.
Yes.
And once he had a definite major purpose. I want my daughter back, yes. Right? And I have a specific set of skills, and if you don't bring her back, I'm going to use them on you. And he does, but nothing matters. He doesn't care about anything, legal, illegal. Anybody gets in his way, he beats people up. That's such hard focus on what the goal is, that's right? It. They tell a story about Richard Branson and a charity that had come to him and said, hey, we'll give you this, where I can't remember, it was hundreds of thousands or $1 million to come and talk for a day to their charity. And his people took that to him and he said no. And so his people went back to the charity and said, he says no. And they went, all right. So they upped the amount of money and lowered the amount of time. And they took that to him and he said no. And so they came back. The third time was like something stupid, 5 million, 10 million for half an hour. Like they just wanted him to come and speak. And he still said no. So the third time, what he sent back to them was, I love your charity. I've supported it in the past. I probably will support it again in the future. But I only have 3 goals this year. I have 3 things I have to achieve this year. And if what you're asking me to do, even for half an hour and for $10 million, does not get me closer to one of those things, I'm not doing it. Yeah, like the self, right? The self-discipline. And people go, he didn't need the money.
Alignment.
Yes, like
right?
So driven, so focused on, I want these 3 things, and that's all. And as human beings, we applaud people that multitask. And I think it's a misnomer because no one does that very well. You're crap at all the different things because, right? You're not giving anything, right? You don't want to be a jack of all trades. You want to be world class in just one. And so, taking that example, and he runs more than 400 companies. He still has the same 24 hours a day the rest of us have. Mm-hmm. How does he do that? How does Tony run more than 40? And these people they're running 300 miles and they were doing self-care. They understand how their mind works. They understand and control their emotion. And they set their priority and they set their definite major purpose. And so they know what that is. But that's very difficult to do. That's your North Star. If you're in a boat, that's your North Star. That keeps you on track so that you understand and know where you're going, right? Otherwise, what's the point? And I think the weird thing for me when I'd read Think and Grow Rich over the 25, 30 years, a bunch of times. But until I sat down and paid somebody to teach me about what was there, it's again, I go back to Papa. There's other laws of right. Gravity that's a law that, right, scientific law. I can say, you know what, gravity is crap. I don't believe in it. But if I step off my roof, it's going to affect me, even though I don't believe that it's real. So I think when we get into a situation where we don't understand, everybody's playing the life of, game of life without understanding what the rules are. They don't understand how to get ahead. They don't understand how to control their mind and their emotion. They don't understand how to get ahead or how to win. Papa talks about abundance, and we start to talk about, again, divinely equipped. I want to live out of abundance. I want to live out of love, not out of fear. That's the only two emotions that we make decisions and live out of one of those two camps. And any decision we make out of fear is usually not a good one. Excuse me. And fear is an illusion anyway. It's a trumped up thing that stops us from achieving what we want. It's not, danger is real, but fear is just an emotion that keeps us bottled up and holds us down. It's the weirdest thing. I've jumped out of a plane, perfectly good plane, 288 times. And the last two times
How many times?
288.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah. And the last two times were halo jumps from 43,000 feet. So, and the weirdest thing about skydiving is that when they put heart monitors, they've done studies and they put heart monitors on people. They go in and do the morning class, and their heart rate goes up and up and up and up and up as the class continues, right? Because they know it's coming. And then they put their flight suits on, and it continues to go up, and they walk the tarmac to the plane, and it goes up and up and up. They get in the plane, and the plane goes up, but so does their heart rate. The weirdest thing happens when they jump out of the plane. Their heart rate goes down. So it was the expectation, the fear of not knowing.
Not knowing.
Right? So your false evidence appearing real, right?
Yes.
So I think a lot of times when we're sitting in those spaces where fear takes us over, whether it's fear about past, it's going to catch up to me, it's going to, right? Or it's fear of something that could or possibly might happen in the future, probably not, but we're afraid it might. Mm-hmm. We rob ourselves from enjoying today, which is the present, oddly enough. The gift of today gets messed up because we can't get past or step past our fear of yesterday or tomorrow. And so when it's we talk about it at Momondays, I say it almost every show, every event. And I talk about fear being an illusion. The weird part is most people don't have a massive fear of speaking in front of people. And so the odd part of that is,
do you say most people don't?
Most people have a massive fear.
Yes, they do.
Yes,
that's like number one fear after dying, isn't it?
Well, it was it changed. It was the number one fear for years and years and years. And the last thing I saw, the number one biggest fear across everybody was the fear of burning to death.
Oh.
I was like, well, what is that? But anyway, so speaking in front of people became number two. But it's up there. It's one of the biggest fears people have. And so taking that fear and going, the problem is we discount our own stuff. Mm-hmm. So we go, it's just my life. No one cares about it's crap. It's just my stuff. It doesn't mean anything. The challenge with that is, again, divinely equipped. We're all going through these. So life's not happening to me. It's happening for me, first of all. And then taking that to the next step, it's happening for me to equip me specifically to be able to help other people get through what I went through.
Yes.
Right?
So good.
But
okay, let's say that again.
Okay, so it's happening, life's happening for me to equip me specifically to be able to help other people get through what I just went through.
So good.
But if I can't share my story, I'm robbing those people of the miracle they're praying for. Yes. Because we all do it, right? We get in the space and we go, we get in the dark space and we go, please give me something. Even atheists, please give me some, let me find some way to get through this. And just sitting in on Mondays or just watching your show or watching people share their story, even if they don't give tips or tools in terms of how to get through it, the fact that you got through it means I can get through it. And what you just gave them was hope. Which is the massive, massive deal, right?
You're taking the words out of my mouth, Gordon. This is fantastic. Oh my gosh, you have no idea how giddy I am right now.
But we don't, if we let our fear stop us, it doesn't get there.
Yeah.
Right? The last part of healing, you know you're healed from whatever it is when you can help somebody else get through what you went through.
Yes.
Right? If you can share that with other people and let them help heal through, that's the final stage. Until you help somebody else heal, you're not fully healed. I don't believe.
Yeah.
Right? Once you can do that, you're good.
It was one of the best ways for me to heal was when I started sharing my story. And so when you start sharing your story, you're so right. You're healing in the process.
Absolutely.
But also you're allowing other people now to open up. And then you'll see, whoa, I'm not alone.
Absolutely.
This is so good. I'm not alone. And other people feel the same way, that they're not alone. And then you help each other just by giving each other hope, that light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
You understand what I'm talking about because you've been there. You've been through this. There's so much power in that.
Absolutely. Well, and that's where empathy, right? I can't be empathetic if I don't understand. If I've never been there, I don't understand. Right. So people that have mental awareness or mental health, mental wellness challenges, even if somebody's helped somebody through depression or what they've helped them through, so they understand how the support works. They understand how the supporters feel, but they still don't understand how because they haven't experienced it. Once you experience it, right? It's like you have a child. My wife has children. If I go and say, okay, describe labor to me, right? And I can sympathize with the fact that it's ridiculously painful and horrendous, but I can't empathize because I've never experienced that. So that's such the experience of going through it is such a powerful piece to be able to have empathy. And if you can't have empathy, there's without being political, a past leader in the U.S. couldn't empathize because they hadn't experienced any of those things, and a current leader in that country experienced a bunch of things or has experienced a bunch of things, so is able to empathize with people that are going through that now, or people that have experienced that. So if parents, I still have mine. So when my wife, when her dad died, I can sympathize with her, and I'm there to support and hold her and be there for her as a support for her, and love her through that. But I can't empathize with that yet because I don't know what that feels like. I still have my parents. Mm-hmm. So it becomes such a powerful thing. They say experience is the best teacher, but I don't have to experience it myself, right? I can look at somebody else that's ruined their life with drugs or alcohol or whatever to know that, you know what, I don't want to do that. But I can't empathize with those people because I've never gone through that. Yeah, right. So there's a yin and yang of that, right? I want to use the ones that are positive because I think everybody's life is an example and a tool. And sometimes it's a you want to look at that person. I want that. I do that because that works. That's clearly a good example of what to do. But some lives are a cautionary tale, right? Some lives you look at and go, ooh, I don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that. So I hold myself up at the moment as a cautionary tale. Run 300 miles an hour, and I say to my clients, I've got or did have half my clientele were pro sport athletes. So they're already at a high level. They already understand discipline. They already understand some of that stuff. So being able to get them to the space where they can plug into those things and plug into those feelings and plug into understanding how their mind works and how to harness other people's experience for their own benefit because that'll exponentially accelerate their learning curve. But to learn which ones are ones that this is a cautionary tale, don't do that. But this is because sometimes it's not, you watch someone that's 300 miles an hour, people look at me for years and years and years going, wow, look at Gordon. He's somebody you want to emulate because, you know, he works 20, 23 hours a day, 10 days a week, 700 days a year. Like that, there's just right, no break. No, people would look at, other bosses would look at me and other employees and go, hey, why can't you be more like Melville? And I hated that because it was like, no, that's not fair. Right. And, but to the exclusion of the rest of my life. Right. So, when Grant Cardone talks about, being obsessed, right. And people, oh, obsessed, that's bad. It's only bad when you obsess about one thing. If you obsess about one woman, yep, that's bad because it's going to take you in a wrong direction. If you obsess about your health in the sense that, you know, Mr. Olympia, and I'm not throwing aspersion, I have spent time with some of them, wonderful human beings. And the ones I know have done very well in the other areas. But if you go that one area to world class, but you lose your relationships and you lose your spiritual, like if all the other ones are down, you've obsessed about just that one, then yes, that's bad. But if you, Grant says, obsess about everything, obsess about your family, obsess about your health, obsess about your finances, obsess about everything, just obsess about everything. Now it's not a bad thing because it's running at a really high level. I obsess about doing self-care. Why? Because I know that's the one ingredient I have to do to keep everything else afloat. Because as soon as I slide sideways, I'm no good to my family or my friends or my colleagues or my clients or anybody else. I'm done if I don't look after myself. So
absolutely.
Right.
And then that's why it's so important to keep everything in check. Right. And a lot of times that's not easy to do on your own. So, right, that's why the help of a coach is so important. I always talk about this, Gordon, because I totally believe in the power of coaching. And so because a coach can see things that we can't, and the coach can see the potential in us that we can't ourselves see. And they're the guidance. They're that, they're that light that lights up the path for us. And so totally into investing in yourself by hiring a coach that can help us see through those blind spots. Yeah. So why don't we talk a little bit about your coaching program so that if people are interested, they can reach out to you?
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in 4 things. So attitude is the first one because it's something we can control, right? Control is an illusion. You have children. As soon as you have children, you realize control is an illusion. It's right. I can control what I'm thinking and what my attitude is. And I'm not saying that's easy. And I'm not saying that's not without its perils and challenges, but it's something I can control. And it's a little thing that makes a big difference is the way I've heard it described. The second thing is work ethic. The other thing I can control. So of the 4 things, those are the only 2 I can control in my whole life, what I think and what I do. And it's something that if you don't have work ethic, when I was hiring people in automotive retail, I was not looking for if they knew the difference between a Ford and a Chrysler and a Toyota right? I'll teach them that. Do they know how to sell? I don't know. If they do, great. If they don't, no big deal. I can teach that. What I was looking for was attitude at 300 miles an hour with their hair on fire, positive, and work ethic out their butt, because I can't teach those things if they don't already come equipped with that. Again, it goes back to mindset, right? The mindset, where is their brain at? So that's those 2. The other 2, one is accountability with consequences. And again, my attitude towards consequences, lots of times people go, oh, I think of my parents giving me spank when right? So I don't want consequences. As an adult, no, don't micromanage me. I don't want to be micromanaged, right? But there has to be, in business, it's different, and I'll come back to that. The last one's execution. So I can have a plan, but if I don't execute the plan, it doesn't mean anything, right? We have a professional sports team in Toronto that just until recently couldn't execute to save their life. They looked like a sports professional team. They had all the stuff, sold out arena, everything was right, but couldn't execute their own game plan, tragically, night after night, after year after year after year. So the point is, I need to have those four things, right? So the illustration I use is the New York Giants with Eli Manning and the Patriots with Brady. The Patriots had won 17 or 18 games in a row right into the last year. They had not lost a game all year. Brady had been sacked less than 5 times or only 5 times all year. And they got into the Super Bowl, those two teams. And New York won the bye. They won the I can't remember what it's called. They won the game that got them in. They may not even have got there. So they went into that game. Everybody thought, well, this is going to be just they're going to slaughter them, horrendously slaughter. And they should have. But New York came in going, our attitude is, no, we can win. They counted us out, but no, we can win. We know we can. We believe in ourselves. The work ethic was out there yin yang. Nobody took it down off. Everybody push. The accountability with consequences. So Eli Manning threw 2 interceptions during that game. And as he's coming off the field, the coach is losing his mind, right? But the coach doesn't look at him and go, hey, you're fired. Get out, right? They go to commercial break. When they come back, you see Eli sitting in the middle of all the other backup quarterbacks and all quarterback coaches, and they're all looking at game tape and film going, or paper pictures going, hey, this is why this guy missed the road, and this is why that happened. It's education. It's helping him understand what went wrong so it doesn't happen again. And it happened again, and they sit down and do some more. This is why that happened this time, and and then they executed their plan. They had to interrupt Brady. They knew they did. And so they sacked him 5 times in that game. He'd only been sacked 5 times all season. And they got to him, and New York won. Well, that should never have happened that way. But because they believed in themselves, because they worked themselves tirelessly through all the pain and the injuries and whatever, right? They held themselves accountable with consequence, and then they executed their plan. And so my coaching wraps that inside of a lot of Think and Grow Rich, a lot of those life principles, because I believe if you can understand how your brain and mind works, and your emotions, and you can harness them. So for instance, we talk about ego being a bad thing. Oh, ego is a bad thing. Well, yep, ego can be a bad thing. But if I understand how it works and that it's a bad thing, I can harness that negative to give me a positive outcome, right? If I don't understand how it works, then I just eliminate ego. Oh, it's a bad thing. So I eliminate it. Wait. It can work for you.
Yes.
If you, right? So a lot of my coaching talks about those 4 things and embracing things like accountability with the consequence. In business, if I have consequence in someone, if I don't know as much as the person, that's why mentors and coaches, you're absolutely right, are a huge deal, because they can see blind spots that I don't see. They can encourage me to keep going when I don't want to, or when things seem a little bit dark or not happy, or I have a bad day or whatever. I can get encouraged and supported. But that accountability, if the consequence is more education, if that's what the consequence is. So I let somebody hold me highly at the highest level they can of accountability, which is something that a coach can do, hold you wildly high. And then if I don't meet that accountability level, or for myself, then the consequence is, all right, the coach is going to teach me. The mentor is going to teach me so that it doesn't repeat. Well, what happens in business if I hold myself highly accountable, and then there's a consequence of more education? More education means I get better at what I'm doing. As I get better at what I'm doing, then I start to make more money, or I start to be more successful, or I start to get to the goals and the definite major purpose that I wanted.
Yes.
So you know what? Hold me as micromanage me as much as you want. As much as you want, because that's going to make me better.
Yes.
And most people push back on that. Less than 3% of the population globally does any kind of personal development. Less than 3%. Most adults have not picked up a book of any kind of substance, magazines maybe, but no real book since they left high school. And they wonder why. Well, why is 1 or 2% of the population making 80% of the income? And they get upset with that and push back at it and go, oh, they're just, no. Zig Ziglar told me way back at the beginning, you need to read 4 to 6 books a month and you need to go to 3 conferences a year. It doesn't matter what the books need to be some kind of education, not,
Yes.
romance novels or whatever. And nothing wrong with romance novels. Right. And then conferences can be about anything. But so that's how reading that many books, that's how that happened. I averaged 5-6 books every month, month after month after month after year after year after year. And it changes who you are. It helps with your mindset. It helps keep you engaged. And then I try to do a conference every quarter. So 4 times a year, I'm going to a conference. Again, spend a small fortune trying to make sure that I stay current. I remember these 4 guys that came up to me. That was with Grant. And they were the first 4 guys to say, yes, we want to go and see Grant. And I said, because they were pushing through other people to get there, most people don't do that. So I'm like, there's got to be something going on or sorry there. So I start to talk to them. They were the most successful guys in the dealership. They made the most amount of money of anybody. Like they were the best of the best of the best, not just in that store, but in that industry. Yeah. And I said to them, so how much is enough? Like, how much do you want to make? Like, how much? I don't understand. Explain. And they said, it has nothing to do with our output. It has nothing to do with our income. What it has to do with is keeping our brain in the game. And so it was for them. So they tell a quick story about 2 lumberjacks going into the woods first thing in the morning with their axes. And after they start chopping away and doing their thing. And after about an hour and a half, one of them walks away and is gone 15 minutes. And he comes back, keeps going. And every hour and a half through the whole day, that same guy just kept leaving for 10, 15 minutes and come back. And at the end of the day, they stopped and turned around and looked at the piles of logs they had cut. And the guy that hadn't left pile was like a third of the size of the other guys who kept leaving. And the guy that hadn't left said, what did you do when you left? Like, he said, I was sharpening my axe. So that's it. That's the mindset for me that says, you know what? I need to sharpen my axe. Why do Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson could not execute at the same level of Michael, right? Phil did play basketball, not at that level, but he understood the game well enough, what should be happening. And so Michael had a head coach. He also had a conditioning coach. He had a food coach. He had he probably paid millions of dollars a year to have a dozen different coaches for a dozen different things. And why would they do that? Well, because they understand the benefit of having a coach. Yes. They understand, it's an investment in myself. It's an investment in how do I get ahead? I have to have somebody lead. And it may be a coach for a while. It may be a coach for long term, but it needs to be somebody that you connect with more than any other one thing, right? Because if you don't like them or you don't connect with them, it doesn't matter how good their program is. You're just going to keep pushing back on it, right? Again, because our attitude is not good about that person.
Yes.
Right. So for me, like I say, a lot of my clients have been athletes, but they don't have to be. I do lots of work with regular everyday people that are just looking to move to the next level. If you're trying to get ahead, push your game. I'm your guy. If you're not willing to be accountable, I'm not your guy. I remember the one young gentleman, professional soccer player in Australia, and he said to me, because he bought his time by the hour, and I don't do that anymore, but at the time he bought it by the hour, and then he cut it in 4. So I would talk to him at 4 a.m. on a Friday morning for 15 minutes, just a lightning round. And I said to him, why do you pay a huge amount of money, multiple hundreds of dollars for 15 minutes, right? Why do you do that? And he goes, because, Now he has an Australian accent, which always makes him sound cool. But he said, Gord, he called me mate. Mate, I'm coming home from work on a Tuesday or Wednesday. And he said, I have to drive wherever he drove. It was right by the ocean. And he says, I can see the swells and I want to go surfing so bad. But he said, I know I've spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to talk to you on Friday morning. And I know you're going to anticipate that I have done the homework or have done the things I said I wanted to for me to get where I said I wanted to go. So there's no way I'm not making I go by the surf to go home to do because I know that it keeps me accountable in the moment. And that's how habits build, right? It's what you do in the moment, right? What do you do when nobody's watching? What do you do when nobody's paying attention? That's where discipline builds, right? If you can do the right thing when no one's paying attention, you got some good character.
Then that's it. You've got some good habits going.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah.
Gordon, we're out of time.
Oh, that's so quick.
It was so quick. It was so quick. It was just so fun talking to you and hearing you talk about your story. And I resonated with everything you said. So thank you so much. I want to make sure that we ask people who watch this show to share it with other people. There was a lot in there. And you just never know whose life you may touch just by sharing this talk.
Absolutely.
And sometimes they may have heard it before, but the way they hear it this time would be totally different. And this is how you can impact other lives. Absolutely. So reach out to Gordon if you like. Here's his email address, jewel.coaching@gmail.com. You can find Gordon on all social media platforms. He's everywhere. You can reach out to him. Really, really easy to reach out to Gordon, I have to say. Thank you so much for connecting with me. Gordon, I want to give you a couple more minutes to leave us with whatever you like.
The one thing, so Jewel International, Jewel is JEWIL. It's an acronym. So J is Jandon. So that's my wife and my company, Jandon. So JAN from her name, Janessa, and DON from Gordon. So Jandon. So that's our sort of umbrella. That's our corporation that we hold, right? So that's Jandon. But empowerment with intention, life coaching. So it's intentional growth. We can all grow organically, and that's good. That can be helpful. Intentionally growing is something I learned from John Maxwell, and it's showing what that intention is. So at the beginning of a day, spending some time on yourself, on when you get up in the morning and that routine that you have, being able to set your intention, meditating. And while people think, well, my brain runs all over when I meditate, it's all over. And that's where having a definite major purpose comes in, because when you're meditating, if you can put on some deep music that's just doesn't have words, just the sound of the music that encourages you. And then what you're doing is visualizing is in as much detail as you can, smells and sights of what your definite major, when you get there, when you're there, what does that look like? I know people that have done that where they've had house parties in the house they want to have at some point. And they've entertained there, and they've lived there, and they've brushed their teeth in the bathroom, and they've gone to bed there, and they've watched TV there. Like, if in those moments when you're meditating, setting that intention, right? You find a thing where, and it's such a huge, huge deal. I'll get out of bed, stub my toe. And I'm like, oh. If I place the value on that stub of my toe, a negative thing, the weirdest thing happens. I set that intention as a negative. And the next thing you know, when I go and take the lid off the toothpaste, it squirts out and a whole bunch of it comes out in the sink. And then, I get to the kitchen and there's no milk. I can't have cereal. And then I hit every red light on the way to work. And why? Because the negative intention was set instead of a positive intention set.
Yes.
Right. So setting intention for everything. What's my intention? If I'm going into I have a client that said, Gord, I struggle with my parents and they're alcoholics and there's struggles with, and I want to see them. I love them, but it's very difficult. But they're not nice to me. They're not nice to my wife. It's a hard thing. And I said, what do you think before you go in on the trip to them and on sitting in their driveway before? He said, oh, I'm thinking, oh man, I hope this isn't going to be and I'm like, okay, so challenge. All the way to them and in their driveway, I want you to be thinking and saying out loud and sharing with your wife, this is going to be the best time. We're going to have a positive time. It's going to be, again, they're setting the intention and let me know how it works. Like call me back when it's over. And so he called me back at court. That was a completely different, right? That went wonderfully. And I said, why? Well, because that's what your intention is, right? If I'm going to get what I expect. If I expect negative, that's what's going to happen. If I expect positive, more often than not, that's what's going to happen. Oh. And the value of all that, is nothing has value, good, bad, or otherwise, until we place that on it, right? So I can I pray all the time where I'm saying my affirmations and I go, money's flowing in and coming from everywhere. And then I find, $10 against my tire at the grocery store. And I'm like, oh, how lucky I am. No, you've been asking for the universe to bring money to me from everywhere. Well, guess what? It just did what you asked. But if you don't put that value on it, I'm getting what I asked for. I'm not lucky. I'm getting my intention to have more stuff flow through me is right here. Look, I manifested that. I made that happen for myself. And empowering. Right? We don't want to empower ourselves. We don't want to take ownership of everything. We will, oh no, that's their fault. That's their, no. You put yourself in that position by being where you are and by making the choices that they do. And for my coaching stuff and the approach I take, everybody is where they are based on the decisions and choices they've made over their whole life, good, bad, or otherwise. Right. So when they look at other people and go, oh no, it's their fault. No, you chose to be in that job. You chose to be in that relationship. Well, no, but I need the income. No, crap. There's other places to work. There's other people on the planet to be married to or to have a relationship with that won't treat you like you chose to be there. Choose not to be there. And again, having a definite major purpose that says this is where I want to go will really help with that. Establishing that definite major purpose will help with that because now I make choices and set goals that will get me closer to that definite major purpose. And if someone's not helping me or a relationship's not serving where I want to go, I can love them. It doesn't mean, I'm going to stop talking to them 100% maybe, but it means I'm going to really, really chop down, right? You become like the 5 people you hang out with, or spend the most amount of time with. So I'm just going to spend less time with that person. Yeah. I'm going to gravitate and people go, well, I love that person. I like that person. Great. Other people will come into your life because you're at a higher vibration. People at that higher vibration will start to come to work and you'll have new friends that are more productive to helping you get where you want to go. And it's not about, I don't say that in a selfish way. And I don't mean that in I'm going to do this to get it. It's a giving idea. I want to go givers get more, right? Is a foundation and a wonderful, wonderful organization. But anyway, it's about giving, right? But I have to look after myself. I have to have a good attitude, a work ethic out my butt. I have to hold myself accountable or hire somebody, better yet, hire somebody to hold me accountable and have consequence. And I may not like the consequence, right? But you know what? At the end of the day, the fact that there's consequence will help me be even more accountable and will push me ahead. And then I have to execute my plan.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to this so much.
Me
I've heard some wonderful things about you. So
thank you. You're so awesome. And this is, I want to say this, that, if for whoever is watching this and we can be in that place where, oh, it's too late for me. It's never too late, right? You can start right now, right here, and
Absolutely.
Start changing your life.
Yes. What's happened in the past does not dictate your future, no matter what the past looks like.
Yes.
Your future's perfect. In every way, it's perfect. Because you can manufacture it.
Amazing. Gordon, it has been a pleasure to have you on the show. You are filled with so much wisdom, and I could never get tired of talking to you, but we'd be here for hours.
I'm in. Thank you so much, Stella. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. My
big
pleasure.
Virtual hugs.
Yes, a long 20-second one.
Absolutely, yes. When we see each other live, we'll have to make sure we give you a better hug.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that day. So thank you so much for being here, and everybody for watching us today. Thank you for giving us your time, and thank you for engaging in the comments. Wishing you the very best rest of your Sunday. Please take some action in making your life better, because you deserve it. And this is the only life you've got, after all. So take full advantage of it. Absolutely. And I hope that in hearing this story today and the teachings of this amazing guest, that you got some words of wisdom, learned as much as I did, and share this with other people. As always, this has been another Dela's Voice, sparking your soul. Until next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye.